Ancient Way Sesshin, October 2024. Sesshin is important. It's important because liberation is possible. It's important because it's a gateway that we can step through for our own satisfaction and for the benefit of others. Sesshin is important because it offers an opportunity which we don't often have in our regular life, an opportunity to come right up face to face with our own mind without wiggling away, without turning away. Sitting after sitting, sesshin after sesshin, year after year. Liberation is possible. Now there are right ways to do this, and there are unskillful ways to do this. There is delusion and confusion. The right way to do this is to come to sesshin with the intention, with a clear intention, and to offer ourselves completely. With clear intention and to offer ourselves completely. All intention, of course, is not skillful. And of course, all confusion is not wrong. But when we come to sesshin with a clear intention, to realize our true nature, to be of benefit to others, to open the heart of compassion, to be of to know the truth that transcends individuals, to offer it again. When we come with the intention of being wholeheartedly engaged in an appropriate way, then the foundation is laid. Now, wholehearted means different things in different contexts. In the Rinzai school, wholehearted means, can you do it with full and complete energy? And so in sesshin with, for example, with Hogen Roshi, there's lots of yelling and all the inos, people who are doing the lead chanting are chanting with full volume, with all the energy they have, and the chanting is a very vigorous activity. The Soto school has a different kind of emphasis on wholehearted. Wholehearted there means, are we really paying attention to the larger truth? Are we paying attention to the room? Are we ringing bells in such a way that it harmonizes with the whole need of the community? Are we doing closing rounds, knowing that the closing rounds are important for the whole community, and so we're hitting the clappers and we're doing the chanting in a way that benefits the whole community? Are we serving something, being aware of who we're serving and how it appears? Or are we just doing it because, I got to do it, so I'll do it? Wholehearted can be either fully energetic, great, so you forget yourself, or it can be fully attuned to the circumstances and situation that we're in, so you forget yourself. And so other people benefit. Wholehearted can be manifesting who we are. So many people have answers to some of the questions that are asked in Sanzen or in life, but they give pallid 50% answers. We may have confidence about how to do something, but when we do it in a hesitating and halting manner, that confidence is not true confidence. When we have pallid, hesitating, ineffective, unskillful actions, our body and mind are split. We're thinking about ourselves, we're not thinking about others, we're well, am I doing it right? What will they think of me? Am I doing it wrong? I'm indifferent to it. But when our body and mind are in harmony, when our body and mind are one thing, we are paying attention to the content, we're paying attention to the context, we're paying attention to the circumstances, we're paying attention to the whole zeitgeist of the situation that we're in, and we're responding fully so the inside and outside are matching. We're not split. When our body is doing one thing and our mind is doing another, and our emotions are doing something else, then of course we feel ineffective, fragmented. So we come to Sesshin with this particular challenge of being in alignment with ourselves, and then being in alignment with the circumstances we find ourselves in, so that our body, our thoughts, our mind, everything is in harmony. This is a kind of samadhi. When the truth fills our body and mind, when truth does not fill our body and mind, we think that we have enough. Confidence, once we have overcome that internal split, so we're not just wobbling through life, and we have a kind of confidence and directness in life, then that is a deeply satisfying way of being. And we have the confidence and directness to go into all kinds of situations and things. We could say that that kind of confidence is the result of alignment, it's the result of intention, etc. It's also a kind of trance state. Trance not being good or bad. Trance, one of the definitions of it, a hypnotic state resembling sleep, any mental state in which a person is apparently unaware of the environment, characterized by loss of voluntary movement, rigidity, lack of sensitivity to external stimuli, a dazed or stunned state, a state of ecstasy or mystic absorption so intense as to cause a temporary loss of consciousness at the earthly level. Spiritualism, a state in which a medium having temporarily lost consciousness can supposedly be controlled by an intelligence from without as a means of communication with the dead. Or an electronic dance music with repetitive rhythms aimed at a hypnotic effect. Most of us know that. To go into trance, to be involved with trance dancing, to be involved with something that we are so in harmony with, so in line with, it feels good, we forget ourselves, is a kind of samadhi. And that kind of trance, the positive sense of this trance, the positive sense of alignment to the point we forget ourselves. And I think in a way of these different definitions of trance, that dance example is probably the most akin to what we're doing. To be totally engaged, intense absorption, losing track of surroundings, so interested in the experience, in the feeling that we are not easily distracted by outside forces. Or we can be in different other kinds of positive trances. Somebody can be pondering something so deeply, they're absorbed in something, they're thinking about something, they're looking at it, they're kind of considering, it's captivated their heart, and they're in a trance of absorption. Or we could be in a trance of absorption in running, a trance of absorption in climbing, a trance of absorption in watching TV, a trance of absorption in surfing the internet. We could be in trances of absorption for all kinds of different circumstances. And they all have that same quality of, it's sort of a pleasurable feeling. People can look at the internet and they just go from, whether they're doom scrolling or video gaming or just randomly looking, and they can go from site to site to site, play a video game over and over and over, or watch soap operas and binge watching, whatever. It can be very pleasant. It can be very pleasant and mindless, or it can be very pleasant and also productive if we're in a trance of a certain kind of work, a certain kind of accomplishment. In our society, we think, or at least we are inundated with advertisements that say trance is good. An addictive game is the kind of game that is addictive series of TV, an entrancement where we begin to forget ourselves. It feels good. That's why we keep doing it. But there also could be trances of, we can go into a trance with chanting, where we're just chanting and watching the energy flow through us and watching the words come out of us, and we're stepped out of the way. We could be almost in a trance that way. People could be in trances of seduction. They get involved with a whole pattern of seduction. They just get lost, and it's repetitive. They just keep doing it over and over again. Or shopping, or running. It can be useful, this kind of one-pointedness, if we have a few things as foundations. First, and this is important for all of us in Sesshin, it's important to know, have some understanding of our heart's aspiration, our heart's desire, something that is larger than ourselves. And most people, when they boil down that, has to do with loving kindness, has to do with helping others, has to do with knowing the truth, has to do with saving all sentient beings, has to do with the embodiment of truth. But if you don't have any sense of vow, of heart's aspiration, then why not just play the most addictive game you can play? Why not just do the most addictive activity you can do because it feels pleasurable, because you lose yourself, because it happens almost magically. With the vow, though, we begin to channel our samadhi in different ways. We can channel our samadhi into productive activity. We can channel our samadhi into ways that will be a benefit to others and ourselves. Secondly, it's very important that when we're engaged in this kind of activity, this kind of one-sided samadhi, that we know that it's temporary. We can be engaged in a dance, climbing a mountain, running, any kind of repetitive activity like that. And if we think that, oh yeah, while I'm doing that, that's where the juice is, that's where my life is, and we don't recognize it always comes to an end. Always comes to an end. And if we don't recognize that that is the natural thing, the natural ending is the natural outcome of every trance, every samadhi. We're sitting in the zendo and we feel really we're in the groove and our breath is clear and our mind is aligned and everything feels just natural and everything is in the right place. It will come to an end. It always does. Every addictive video game comes to an end. Every time that we're in a frenzy of cooking, it comes to an end. That is natural and appropriate. But if we don't actually recognize that coming to an end is essential, we keep going back and trying to recreate it. We'll run another run, we'll climb another mountain, we'll do another this, we keep trying to go back and think that the pleasure of that particular samadhi is where I get my reward, is what's important. And again, you look at all of our addictive behaviors, all of our entranced behaviors, all of our, if we keep going back into the entrancement without thinking that state in the entrancement is satisfying, is meaningful, is where the juice is, then we're addicted. But when it's connecting with our heart's aspiration, when we know that every felicitous state is temporary, every single one, no matter how deep the samadhi is, no matter how good the sesshin is, no matter how smooth and well-functioning we are, it's temporary. That's the way it is. And third, if we are engaged in some kind of activity that we can throw ourselves into wholeheartedly, then when it does end, we have the ability to actually integrate that activity into our life. We have the ability to integrate it rather than thinking, okay, I'll go back. So we come to Sesshin, we have all these practices, we have all this encouragement, we sometimes, some days, everything lines up, the breath lines up, the mind is quiet, things are moving along. Nice. It's going to end. If we don't think it's going to end, we keep thinking we failed. We keep thinking, oh, if I could just go back to the way it was, it's going to end. So when we recognize, oh, it's going to end, then what can I learn? Well, how can I take the insights of that samadhi, the insights of that trance state, and translate it into my daily life, my life? Now, the timeless nature, that kind of timeless nature, we forget ourselves and we forget time, and hours may go by. Very pleasant, can be. We wake up and suddenly it's the last day of Sesshin and we didn't realize it hardly started. That kind of samadhi is actually different than the awareness of, you've done weeks and weeks of Sesshin or days and days and days of Sesshin, and after a while, every day is a day, every day is a full day, every day, and you can't even tell whether this is day 1 or day 27. You can't tell whether this is 1919 or 1929, we just don't know. Because every day is a full day, and the days are so rich that the timeliness that we normally keep track of is gone. So there's a certain kind of timelessness that happens in a kind of samadhi, and a kind of timelessness that happens in just wholehearted engagement in whatever we're doing, up, down, in, out, easy, hard, day to day. There are many stages of practice, as you all know. Many dimensions of practice, as you all know. The early dimensions of practice are, I can't get what I think I want, and I'm upset about it. I'm angry things aren't going the way I think they should go. It's a very early stage of practice to let that go. The world never gives us everything we want. And if we actually want what the world gives us, then suddenly that whole thing is turned on its head. But at the beginning, of course, we start practicing and we keep wanting things to be the way we want things to be. We want people to treat us the way we want people to treat us. We want the Sesshin to go the way we want it to go. We want events to happen the way we want them to happen. We want them to happen where they want them to happen. We want everybody to be reasonable and intelligent and agree with me. Good luck. And so just beginning to realize that's a kind of suffering, and let that go is an early stage of practice. It's a very important, vital stage of practice, early stage of practice. Letting go of I am right, and the world should agree with me. And boy, as soon as we do that, all kinds of anger and frustration just melts away. Because anger and frustration basically is the world is not agreeing with me, and it should. So we practice, we all face that, we all let go of that, and we all begin to say, I want what the world has to give me, I want what comes to me, instead of I know what should come to me. And we begin to enter into the samadhi of acceptance, the samadhi of presence, the samadhi of responding to what is instead of how we think it should be. We come to Sesshin, and as we're doing our practice, some days, clear, bright, something will hit us, we'll see something, and we will taste the underlying choicelessness, or the underlying emptiness, or the underlying spaciousness, or the underlying oneness, or the timelessness, or the isness. We'll have a direct experience of some of the states that sutras talk about. Everything is okay. Everything is included. Everything is in harmony. Nothing but space. Nothing but this. Everything has its place and is fluid in the world. All things just as they are, whole and complete. Great. May everyone touch some of those experiences. May everyone touch those states for yourself. And the way you touch those states is through samadhi. Complete engagement with awareness. I don't think people touch those states through playing video games. Because first off, there's not a vow there. There's a clinging to the experience. And there's not the ability to actually bring awareness. But if we do, if we're practicing in Sesshin, we are continuing day after day, week after week, year after year, lifetime after lifetime, these kinds of one-sided states will become clear. And it's very nice and it's very useful. If we were somebody who's lived in a very materialistic world where we think that there are lots of objects out there and I'm an object that's bouncing through the objects like a pinball machine, and we begin to actually see the spaciousness of all things, or we begin to actually see all things are composed of other things, and all things have an emptiness to them. Great. Great. But it's not the end of the path. No matter what we see, no matter how clear something is, it's not to be negated, but it's also not to be clung to. Just in the same way we're engaged in some addictive behavior which is very, very pleasurable and it ends, and it's very unhealthy to try to go back to and cling to the addictive pleasure. In the same way, addictive insights can be very tempting. And they can be very compelling. We're practicing, something opens up, and things open up when we least expect it. They don't open up when we're planning for them to. They don't open up when we say, oh, I'm getting ready, I'm getting ready, I'm getting ready. You know? It doesn't open up when we say, oh, it's about to happen, it's about to happen. I'm so deep in samadhi, something's got it. It never happens then. Never. But sometimes, when we're not expecting something, something will become clear. 1 minute it isn't, next minute it is. 1 minute it looks like one way, next minute it's flipped. It just becomes clear. You see, oh, it's been obvious all the time. Oh. We can never go back. And of course, whenever we have an insight, certainly in the beginning of practice, the first thing we do, in my experience, is we think, okay, how did that happen? I want to go back and I want to recapitulate all the steps that led to this thing I like, and I will repeat them again. And I'll do the same thing, this. Should give me the same outcome. Never does. Some people can spend years going back and trying to figure out how they think they made something happen. It doesn't happen. The important thing is that we just continue. Something really felicitous occurs, we continue. Something really disturbing occurs, we continue with the practice that you have. There is a chant that we do, not in this session, but in other sessions, affirming faith in mind, abiding faith in mind. The great way is not difficult for those who do not pick and choose. When preferences are cast aside, the way stands clear and undisguised. This is a samadhi that we're talking about. The way stands clear and undisguised, smooth, clear. It's a samadhi. It's a one-sided view. It's great. But that's not all. Here is the second case from the Hogen Roshi, the Blue Cliff record, written in the 12th century. And it has been refined over the many centuries since that time. But here's the case. Now, the way that particular collection of koans is laid out is there's an introduction, and the introduction says, well, here's an orientation, here's a way you can look at this particular case. Here's a view on the koan, which for some of us, the introduction is a whole set of koans in itself. And then there's the story or the case, and then there's sometimes there's a comment, sometimes there's a poem, sometimes there's a comment on the comment on the comment. There's lots of different other dimensions to it. But right now we're going to look at case number 2 from the Hogen Roshi, and it's called "The Ultimate Way is Without Difficulty." The Great Way is not difficult. Joshu, Zhaozu, said to the assembly, "The great way is without difficulty. Just avoid discrimination." And that's what we're talking about when we're in samadhi. We're just one-pointedly doing it. We're not really weighing anything, just avoiding. We're just not avoiding discrimination. That's not the right word. Because avoiding means that I know there's discrimination out there, I know that there's this out there, I'm going to avoid it. It's two things. But we're engaged wholeheartedly in samadhi. We're engaged wholeheartedly in the practice, wholeheartedly in the breath, wholeheartedly in the sound, wholeheartedly. We're engaged. And in that engagement, we're not discriminating. The case continues. But as soon as there are the words, this is discrimination or this is clarity, as soon as there are the words, this is discrimination or this is clarity, then there's a falling into confusion. As soon as we say, I'm right, I'm wrong, it should be this way, it should be that way, the great way is without difficulty for those who do not pick and choose. As soon as there's picking or choosing. But here's the catch of this case. Joshu then says, I am not within clarity. I am not within samadhi. I am not within understanding. The great way is not difficult for those who do not pick and choose, but Joshu says, I am not within the way of picking and choosing. I am not within clarity. That doesn't apply. That's part of the koan in this case. Then he says, do you preserve anything or not? I'm not within clarity. Do you preserve anything or not? Do you can you hang on to anything or not? Do you realize anything or not? Do you know anything or not? The Great Way is not difficult for those who do not pick and choose. Preferences are cast aside. The way stands clear and undisguised. And Joshi says, I'm not within clarity. I'm not within understanding or not understanding. We're doing sesshin, we have an up day and a down day, we have an easy time, we have a hard time, we have an insight, we have a confusion. That's not who we are. And yet, that's our life. At that time, a monk asked, well, since you're not within clarity, what is true? If you say, oh yeah, this doesn't apply to me, well, what does apply to you? And Joshu says, even I don't know. Even I don't know. So, at this point, right and wrong, good and bad, a great day, a bad day, an easy day, a hard day. Is that good? Is it bad? Is it worth keeping? Is it worth forgetting? I don't know. We're involved with a samadhi of oneness, a samadhi of chanting, a samadhi of breathing, a samadhi of... Is it good or bad? If you have clarity or don't have clarity, is that good or bad? Can you hold on to clarity or not clarity? I don't know. And the monk continues saying, well, if you don't know, then why do you say you're not in clarity? You know, you got to know something if you're going to say I'm not in clarity. Or I'm not. This doesn't apply to me. You've got to know something. If you say I know, I don't know, and Joshu says, it's enough you ask the question. Please bow and return. Enough you've asked the question. Please bow and return. Here's the introduction to this koan. The universe is too narrow to contain it. The sun, the moon, and the stars are too dark to shed light on it. Even if it blows rain down and shouts thunder, this still does not match up to the matter of the religion of transcendence, does not match up to awakening. Even if the Buddhas of past, present, and future can only know it for themselves. Even the Buddhas of past, present, and future can only know it for themselves. The leading teachers of successive generations have not been able to bring it out fully. All the teachings of the whole canon cannot explain it completely. Even Chan practitioners with enlightened eyes cannot save themselves thoroughly. At this point, how will you ask for aid? Even to say Buddha is trailing mud and dripping water, even to say Chan or Zen is filled with shame. Adepts who have studied for a long time do not wait for it to be said. Late-coming beginners must look into it. So we're always end up in a conundrum, a paradox of contradictory truths that cannot be resolved at the level of contradictory truths. We practice hard and sometimes we get something. We practice hard and sometimes something is taken away. We practice hard and sometimes we have confusion and sometimes we have great clarity. Which is right? Sometimes the world is at peace and sometimes the world is at war. Sometimes things are going to the right, sometimes they're going to the left. What is it that contains war and peace, that contains right and left, that contains success and failure, that contains ups and downs, that contains the days, the weeks, the months, the earth, the sky? What is it? It is not a thing. And yet, our most intimate experience is not separate from it. We practice to realize the Buddha way, to realize ourself. We practice to cut through confusion and delusion. And the first stage, of course, is we find some calm abiding. We find some kind of peace, find some kind of stability. It's great. Hallelujah. Wonderful. Like all samadhis, it ends. No matter how peaceful and how harmonious and how equanimous we are, that will end. It doesn't matter how good a practitioner you are, it will end. All things end. Everything is transient. Is that good or bad? What is to be learned from that? And then it ends and suddenly something else happens. And that too ends. What is to be learned from that? What is the container that holds up and down and in and out, right and wrong? And Joshi says, I don't know. And the monk says, well, if you don't know, how can you say that? And then he responds. When we cut through all of our confusion and our right and wrong and our knowing and not knowing, we are left with this life, this particular bundle of karma that we have. Each of us has his or her, our own bundle of karma. We are left with responding wholeheartedly, completely to that bundle of karma, with that bundle of karma, in that particular way, in that particular world. Everybody lives in a different world. We all go into the cafeteria together and we eat lunch together, and everybody is having a different lunch. Believe it or not. And it is up to us to taste it fully, to digest it fully. Nobody else can. It is up to us when right and wrong and good and bad and up and down are all seen through, and even the dream is seen through as a dream. We're left with this, with this, with this. How do we live this with integrity, with vow, with clarity, with wholeheartedness? When the truth does not fill our body and mind, we think that we have enough. We think that our insights, our experience is enough. Great. But when the truth fills our body and mind, we realize there's a mystery that permeates everything. We're doing our best to be present and wholehearted and to respond. And boy, there's just so much we don't know. So much. Where do these words come from? Where do the gestures come from? What's happening? What's the effect of whatever we do? Where does the circumstance of our life come from? We have to respond as though we had some insight and clarity, and yet it's a mystery. A total mystery. And in the midst of that mystery, we keep going forward. Sometimes people become afraid of the mystery, and then they begin referring to their own anxiety as the standard by which to judge whether they go forward or not. And they feel like, oh, my anxiety is the leader. If I'm anxious about something, I won't. If I'm not anxious, I will. And so then anxiety becomes and they can't go into the mystery, can't go into the unknown, because anxiety does not lead us well. Part of that's the function of having a good guide. Soto was saying yesterday about his guide taking him out to the water hole where the lions were. You know, without a good guide, you probably would be eaten by an anaconda or, something else. Got lost in the desert. So a good guide, when we get to the place where we don't know, we don't not know, we've entered a kind of samadhi, we have a certain understanding, we don't know where to go, we're facing the whole mystery, that's when we can rely upon something other than our own anxiety or our own confidence. There's another koan in the Blue Cliff Record. Number 87. Medicine and sickness cure each other. Medicine and sickness cure each other. The whole world is medicine. Where is your true self? Medicine and sickness cure each other. Up and down cures each other. Right and wrong, in and out. All of the opposites of our life come together and in a way cancel one another out. Up and down come together, and what's left? When things come together, what's left? The whole world they're looking at medicine in two different ways here. The whole world, the whole universe, our whole world is medicine for separation. And that medicine, that wholeness and separation come together, and what's left? Where is your true self? How do we truly function with integrity? And again, it has to do with vow, has to do with knowing impermanence, has to do with seeing that who we are is not bounded by this particular body, and yet this particular body is our particular way of expressing the boundless. There is a mystery. To go forward in the mystery is practice. Please have confidence. Nobody, me, Hogen Roshi, the Buddha, nobody knows the future. Nobody knows your particular bundle of karma and what's going to happen next. Nobody. And yet, in the face of this mystery, we have to go forward with confidence and clarity. Chefs teach cooking. Math teachers teach arithmetic. English teachers teach writing. Mountaineers teach climbing. What do you teach? What do you teach? What is your life teaching? And how can you most skillfully teach what you have to offer? That's Sesshin. In the timeless You can't tell what day this is or what year this is. You can't tell. There is no evidence in this day, what year, day, century it is. The only evidence is in our mind. The only timekeeping apparatus is in our mind in that way. So come to the completeness of this day, not knowing whether it's the beginning or the middle or the end or the not knowing, but wholeheartedly engage step by step in the mystery of oneness with confidence and see what comes towards you and how can you offer it.